So why am I still talking about law enforcement distress syndrome, or LEDS? Well, I leave the police department, the Denver Police Department, after 15 years of service, and it was a way more difficult transition than I thought it was going to be. My identity is totally wrapped up in being a police officer. It's all I know, and I move across the country and began hanging out with people that aren't even the police. And so you go from being the cops to not knowing any police officers, and I think one of the ways that I coped with this was to write the book From Boy to Blue about my experience at the police department, and then to do the podcasts and articles and everything that I was doing police related. And I think that's what really began to help me. And I started to notice that now that I was away from police work, that some changes had occurred slowly over time in my personality. And I didn't like them, so I started to work on them and challenge myself, and I was kind of aware of what had happened to me. And so I pushed myself to get better, and in conjunction with like counseling and all these things that I'm doing all together, I was able to really make some progress in where I'm at. And then I go visit the cops that are my friends, or I go back home, or the police come, to stay with me or something, friends just come to visit, and I began noticing the same thing in them. So I'm writing these podcasts and articles, and I began to write about this phenomenon, and that was when the response started. People were saying, you're describing what's happening to me, you're describing how I feel, oh my God, you're describing my husband. Some people wrote, I feel better just having read what you wrote, or thank you for putting into words what's happening, something like that. And so we just kept going and kept going. And then we did research, and we surveyed over 1,000 police officers, and we wanted to know, is law enforcement distress syndrome a thing? And if so, how widespread is it? And the results were so unbelievable, and you can find those results at www.stevewarneke.com. So if you're a police officer and you're happy with where you're at and everything's going great, then that is wonderful. Maybe you keep this information in mind for a coworker. Maybe you keep this information in mind for you later on down the road. But if you ever get to a point where you're recognizing some of the symptoms that I wrote about in law enforcement distress syndrome on my website at stevewarneke.com, and go to the LEDS tab, and you're saying, oh yeah, that's happening to me also, and I don't like it, then in conjunction with counseling and therapy, you might be able to self-correct by noticing that these things are happening to you. And so I started getting invitations to speak and invitations to train. So I put together that information, and I'm doing it because I became a cop to help people. And then when I left that, I kind of left a piece of myself behind, and I was lacking purpose. And so to be able to help people, and this time I'm not helping the citizens as much as I am helping the police, it still feels just as good. So I think that's why I'm still doing it. I hope it helps you. Take a look at it. Let me know what you think. Thanks.